Okay, so you've joined the webinar titled Managing Your 9Health Fair for Spring 2020. I'm Alex Andrews, and I'm the Director of Volunteer Engagement.
My name is Christopher. I'm one of the nurses here at 9Health Fair.
Okay, so we're going to go through here and just let us know if you have any questions. Make sure to type into that chat feature and we can answer your questions. And please make sure to hit that microphone button so that we don't have interference with background noise. Okay. Jessica, we're going to do introductions of a few new staff members, show you some resources that we have available, and just reminders that we like to give every year. And we're going to tell you what's new. What's new with 9Health, and then what's new with any of our screenings at our fairs, if there is anything, we'll point it out. Again, the reminders for before your fair, the actual day of your fair, and then after your fair, what you need to do when you're wrapping everything up. And we'll take more questions at the end. We'll just take a little break. Okay, so next, we're going to show you some, these are our new staff members. You can see Kristen Reichert. She is new to the volunteer engagement team. She also has a communications background, so kind of nice right on our volunteer team. We've got someone that can help support with some of the local publicity tactics. We still are going to partner with our marketing team to work on any of that, but Kristen has been very helpful right off the bat. Amy as well is new. She is our director of digital programs. So later on, we're going to talk about e-tools, and Amy has been instrumental in picking that up. If you want to see more detailed descriptions of any of the folks that are listed here, you can go to the 9Health website and look at our staff page. And then Kyle Coley, not sure she's on our website just yet, but 9 News and 9Health have jointly hired Dr. Coley. And she is going to be helping to have an on-air presence of what you guys are doing that's so wonderful at the fairs and how we can help people better manage health. Okay, so for resource guides this year, we have a complete new resource guide pages, and they will be either distributed by your liaison if you're in the metro area, or they're going to be shipped directly to your site coordinator. We already have those packages all put together, so you should be receiving them either by the end of this week or early next week. You'll have all the new resource guide pages. The non-medical section will be delivered later. We had some additions that needed to be made to that section, so that one's going to come when you get your site grant in. Oops, sorry about that typo there, in February. And then the optional screening section, that one, if you go to our new volunteer management system, you can see it there. It's 9healthvolunteer.org. There is a resource library section that you guys probably remember. If you're a returning coordinator, we had a resource library in our class volunteer management system, and that's still in play. That's now our fair management system where you guys enter your steps 1, 2, 3. And then a few other things you do there as well. So if you need those, the entire optional screening, go to the new volunteer system and look for the resources. If you have trouble finding that, let your liaison know and we'll help direct you. Okay, so I won't necessarily go through every single the 9 different points on what's in the resource library, because you guys are going to get this whole slide deck, but just want to quickly point out some of the key things that you can get from the resource library. We've got all the resource guide sections listed out in there, and I actually do have the brand new non-medical section ready in the resource library. So you can already get the electronic version of it, even though we don't have it printed yet. And then the individual screenings and station protocols are in there, and they're divided up by non-medical and medical. You can see the nuts and bolts newsletters that we've sent out from the past. We post them all there as well. Publicity tools. There's quite a big menu of publicity templates and tools that are in the resource library. So check those out. Some of them you guys can tweak and you can add your own information. Some of them are, PDFs and you use them as is. But most of them you can make them your own for your site, put your site name in, site logo, date, address, that kind of thing. And then there's also specific medical resources for your registration educator and ask a medical question, get a referral. So there's those specific things in there. I'm gonna pause for 1 quick second and make sure that we've got everybody muted. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go. So we talked about medical resources. There are also some volunteer management tools in there. So kind of best practices and tips for recruiting volunteers and managing them. There are some website training videos, including a model fair and different PDFs in there, and step-by-step guides for centrifuge and online registration. And then the last one you see best practices. There's some really good tips in that best practices. So if your fair lines weren't running really smoothly, look in that best practices section because we have some really good tips in there from other volunteers and staff members that have just been able to figure out nice ways to make the line go quickly and smoothly and help your participants have a good experience. Okay, and then we're going to move on and get a little more detailed on newsletters. So monthly, it's the fourth week of every month. We send out nuts and bolts to all the coordinators that we have entered into those steps. So either the step 2 and 3 in the fair management system, or if you have a list of co-coordinators, we pull an updated list every month to make sure we're getting everybody. For some reason, some people don't get it in their inbox. So I highly encourage site coordinators to forward nuts and bolts to the rest of your team members, just so you make sure you're informing all the coordinators that you have working on your fair. And then the Volunteer Voices newsletter, that goes out to roughly 17,000 volunteers across the state. And sometimes it's kind of shout out to volunteers that have done an amazing job. We're asking for help from volunteers if we need more coordinators recruited. So there's all kinds of things in Volunteer Voices that let the volunteers know we're thinking about you or we need your support in some way. There are some kind of bullet points there on things that are in nuts and bolts, so you can see that, dates and different training information. It's really important to look at those. So we have the Volunteer Voices newsletter saved on the front of the main 9Health website if you guys are looking for past editions of that. Okay, and then if you guys need website support, this is really, I'm referring to the volunteer system here. The resource library is accessible to all volunteers now on the volunteer management system, so that can help your volunteers. If you are logged into the volunteer management system and you click on the help box, or there's also a toolbox if you're in your coordinator tools. So if you've clicked on the button titled My 9Health Fair Site, then you may see this orange toolbox. And that actually gets you directly to Galaxy Digital trainings. And Galaxy Digital is kind of the parent company of this new volunteer management software we have for you guys this year. So I just want to give you a heads up, if you click on either of those buttons, help or toolbox, you're going to see specific Galaxy Digital trainings, and they may not necessarily use all the same lingo that we do. It might be a little confusing. So feel free to look in there. We're not discouraging that. But if it's not giving you all the right information, come to your liaison or come to the volunteer engagement team and we can help guide you through the volunteer system. And then the new volunteer management system webinar, we conducted one last Thursday, and you can see there's a link there. It's also, if you go to the main 9Health Fair page and you go to volunteer and then click on trainings, you'll find that there as well. It's on the 9Health YouTube page. This directs you to that same area that I was just describing. So we have a lot of training videos. We have some on centrifuge, on online registration. You guys may remember, if you're a returning volunteer, we had marketing authorization forms. There are training tools on this training page. So again, it's the main 9Health Fair page at www.9healthfair.org. Click on volunteer and scroll down to training. And you'll see a whole slew of different videos in there to help both coordinators and Day of the Fair volunteers. So a really good example of how to use these is, say that you've recruited, you know you're going to need 5 online registration volunteers. So you can send a link to all those online registration volunteers ahead of your fair. Tell them, view this 6-minute video. It will help you guide you the day of the fair on how to support participants through online registration. So of course, you still want to be ready with your protocols and training the morning of the fair, but it really takes off a load if you can give them some training ahead of time. Same for centrifuge. There is a training in there for ambassadors that are helping to guide and direct your participants. A lot of helpful videos there, and we're making some more as well. So you can keep poking back there, and we'll update you in nuts and bolts if we change anything. So this one's on archived volunteers, and this, you can see, is in the fair management system. So that's where you entered your steps 1, 2, and 3. And if you're not able to get your archived volunteers out of there from last year, let your liaison know. We can still get to it. We are able to pull them from that system still. So if you're not able to get them from the volunteer management system, you guys may remember we had a little issue with that system in automatically importing all those volunteers. Make sure that you're not assuming that that volunteer is necessarily interested in volunteering again. You can reach out to them and email them, but it doesn't necessarily mean they signed up for anything. So in years to come, you won't get your volunteers out of this at all. It'll all be in the new volunteer management system. So this is really the last year you'll pull volunteers out of there. And so you can search for your volunteers from 2019 and send them a little save the date kind of email and request that they come back if you had a good experience with that volunteer. Okay. So the new volunteer management system, as I said earlier, it is, it's designed by a company called Galaxy Digital. You can see we have a specific web address for that. It's www.9healthvolunteer.org. So if you want to go directly there, that's how you get there. You can still get there from the main 9Health Fair website. So if you're on the main 9Health page, then you're going to see a login button on the upper right hand. If you click the little caret drop down next to login, the first option is volunteer login. And that's how you get to the new volunteer management system. So if you guys have not logged into this new system, definitely want to get in there because you want to set up all your volunteer positions. We have set up a basic 9Health Fair for all of the fairs that are coming this spring. But if you have optional screenings, whether it's a non-medical position that we haven't captured in there for you, or those optional medical screenings, we want you to get in there. So if you click on login and you haven't gotten in there before, go to login, scroll down to forgot your password, and then you enter the email address you use for volunteering. And a couple slides back, I shared a webinar about the whole volunteer management system. So I encourage you to use that if you haven't logged in there yet. Okay, there's a link to the training slides, to the training and the slides of the presentation will be sent to you. So we've got the training from the volunteer management system already posted, and we need to add the slides to that as well. Volunteers will now register and manage their profiles through this Galaxy Digital platform, or our new volunteer system. So they are now going to have to pick a volunteer position. So I don't know if you guys remember, but previously they log on to 9healthfair.org and they pick a fair that they want to register for. Now they log on to this new volunteer system and they're going to pick a position at your fair. So they're basically assigning themselves. You don't have to do that anymore. In that training that I mentioned, there are ways to move the volunteers around, and we talk about that in the training. So if you don't like where the volunteer picked, or you really need help in another location, there are ways that coordinators can move their volunteers around. So you still have some control there. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about medical volunteers just for a second. And these are just some helpful tips for you to recruit medical volunteers. And as Alex mentioned before, how you can pull your archived volunteers from the original 9Health Fair volunteer management. You know, they'll probably be part of that, but also just make sure that you reach out to all of your previous medical volunteers and ask them to volunteer again for you this year. And then certainly look for resources in your area, such as Safeway or Albertsons, any clinics or Target, the Target clinics, the Target pharmacy, Safeway, Albertsons pharmacy, nursing schools, or other medical professional schools, such as phlebotomy schools. Reach out to them and see if they'll volunteer. The health and wellness team, which is me and the other nurses, we will also be reaching out to our partners and our agencies that we work with to encourage them to sign up to volunteer. And then this note down here, there is a list of our health screening partners on our homepage of 9healthfair.org, and it lists all of our valued partners that help us with all the screenings at the fairs. We just ask that you don't contact these agencies directly unless you have a specific contact yourself that you've been working with for years. We go through and we reach out to all these different agencies and ask them to come to sign up to your fairs or to tell us what days they're available and then we match them up with sites that really need help. So if you have questions about that, or you really want to contact somebody on this list, just reach out to one of us at 9Health, one of us nurses, and we will certainly work with you on trying to get those folks